All it takes to build an Apriorian community is a small number of spiritually mature persons. When built, an Apriorian community is a perfect community, or what the Bible calls a church. A perfect community is defined as a place without free riders. A spiritually mature place contains no negativity. An Apriorian community is built and operated as a scientific experiment. The member of the community serves as part of a test group to the world's control group. The index tracked is the group's per capita cash value. The prediction is that any group functioning as an Apriorian community will outperform any other organizational form. The Apriorian community will produce more and consume proportionally less than any competitor. The two groups are compared, based on the amount of value they represent at any given time, on a per capita basis. This is distinct from the prosperity gospel, as we are talking the value produced by a group over a fixed span of time, not what an individual accumulates as private wealth. Apriorian missions build the church and entrust the resources of the earth to the church, which is the people of God. We also wage war against the bastions of Satan on earth. The Apriorian apologetic is a mission to destroy the strongholds of Satan and to enhance the value and wealth of the church. We wage war to benefit the people of God. Apriorian apologetic is a scientific community or experiment. Apologetic is the study or science of faith. Apologetic studies how we think, or more correctly, how we ought to think. When we think right, we have faith. We cannot have true faith in what is a lie. There is a right way and wrong way to think. There must be, if there is a right and wrong. If there is good and evil and a right answer to things, there must also be a right path and a way to think and believe if we are to have faith. There must be a path or way that takes us to the end. If the right way exists, it has to be an absolute. If there are problems and there are solutions to these problems, finding the solutions leads to a conclusion. Getting there would constitute the purpose of man. Even if one is a contingent realist who thinks truth is always an approximation, there must be an objective we can aim for. Like the man who at every point in time is always halfway to the end of his journey, the contingent realist is forever approaching the truth, without ever reaching it. But such paradoxes ignore the issue of scale. Every traveler reaches their destination because the half distance takes half the time. And so, at some point, the half distances are taken in an infinitely small amount of time, meaning the traveler always eventually arrives. One may not find the absolute value of pi, but we get close enough that the remainder does not really matter, at least for the majority of us. The point is, if we are to have a direction, whether this is geographical or analytical, there must be an end. There are in this world 10 great evils, TGE. These are, in no particular order, unemployment, debt, poverty, inflation, pollution, waste, taxation, homelessness, war, and crime. We work to eliminate them without much success. Yet, we live and think as if there is a solution. We as a race struggle to find one. Some readers might argue there is no solution to these things and that the struggle to find one is a waste of time, but that is not really the point. The important point is that as individuals in a race we know that unemployment is a problem, we know it falls short of what ought to exist. We understand what full employment is and we think of full employment as the preferred option. But why is that? Why is employment placed on a scale where the more unemployment there is, the worse we think things are? Why is full employment viewed as a desirable end, even if impossible to achieve in a capitalist economics? The concept of good and evil is not merely two opposites, it is the recognition that there is a desirable end, a purpose provided by the perfectness of a state of goodness, of which full employment is a part. When we say there is good and evil, we are saying there is a desirable end that gives us a purpose and a set of conditions, and that when we reject them, we create conditions that are far from the perfection we are attracted to. There cannot be intelligent life, sentience or civilization, without the possibility of perfection. We may not obtain perfection, but we need the possibility to give us direction. Relativists claim there are no absolutes, but if there are none, the idea of standards go out the window. Do they claim relativism is the only absolute? How do we build a better community, if there is no perfect community to strive towards? Why is a higher level of employment a condition that is closer to a perfect community, than a place with higher unemployment? There must be something that takes us closer to perfection and further from perfection, depending on its concentration, that requires full employment. The single fact that is detrimental to perfection is parasitism. As parasitism increases, the level of perfection decreases. Parasitism and perfection are polar opposites. When we strive for perfection, or to be a church in the scriptural sense, we strive to reduce or eliminate parasites. The church is ultimately a meritocracy. To elaborate, the immature are parasites in that they are dependent on the mature for the necessities of life. As we care for our own willingly, they are considered dependents, not parasites, but at some point, dependents ought to mature. If they fail to mature, and remain dependents, they are deemed parasites. The spiritually immature cannot reach perfection because they remain dependents of the system. Community is ultimately built by the spiritually mature. As Christian we must seek maturity, we must look at the times where we did not pay our own way or in which we did less than we could have. Take insurance as an example. If we trusted one another, if we had faith, we would not need insurance. The level of insurance we have, indicates the level of mistrust between us and others. Insurance exists when we feel we must rely on strangers for emergency assistance. If your house burned down and you knew it would be replaced by the community, you would not need insurance. But if your neighbor's house was destroyed, would you be willing to have their home rebuilt by the community? Can they trust you, is the same question as can they have faith in you? If we had faith, we would not need insurance. There would be no risk of loss. We do not have faith because free riding is possible. Once we know good and evil we lose faith. In the world of God there is only good. Man introduces evil into the world when he takes his eyes off of the perfection of God. Satan cleverly caused Eve to look at the tree and desire its fruit. She took her eyes off of God. This is what happens when we desire property, when we want to accumulate wealth. Money is a tool, not an end. Money is the means to an end, not the end itself. Selfishness erodes meritocracy. Money is a unit of account. It quantifies value to make exchanges feasible. It is not a unit of exchange. It is not something to be bought and sold or accumulated as a store of wealth. Money has no value, it is merely a method of tabulating values. Money is the economic equivalent of feet and pounds. It does not matter how much money you have or how much money the community has. If there are no goods and services to allocate, money is irrelevant. Money does not make goods and services appear, only labor does that. Therefore, the focus ought to be on making goods and services, not on making money. The priority of a system that makes the amassing of money the measure of success is a system that is destined to reduce the production of real things. An Apriorian community is a meritocracy. In a meritocracy we earn our place, and everyone pays their own way. In a meritocracy the focus has to be on the production of goods and services, because this is the only way to acquire merit. A meritocracy is a free market. Free markets do not permit interventionist activity by the state. No one is permitted to put their fingers on the scale. This is tantamount to saying might does not make right and the end does not justify the means. If we want to obtain something of value, we have to give something of value. That is all a meritocracy is. Free markets eliminate the law of the jungle which permits and justifies the use of force. The use of force is the alternative to a meritocracy. Force tips the scale in someone's favor or preferences some group. But the key to having a community that is a meritocracy, is to reject in all its forms, freeloading. The law of the jungle is phrased out as the law of the market is prioritized. Freeloading can be eliminated by as few as 3 persons. Participants form a meritocracy in which everyone is paid according to the work they do. To make this possible, every participant pays for everything they consume. In a meritocracy, no one makes claims on anything they did not create, and because no one created the natural realm but God, no one makes claims to any part of the natural world. This is owned by God. We own the value we add to the things of God, through labor. It is this labor that builds the church as a meritocracy. The line of division between the church and the world is the distinction we make between a parasite and a worker. One does not pay their way and the other does. The church is ultimately composed of people who add value, and Babylon is composed of parasites. To build an Apriorian community, we must build a meritocracy, that is a place where everyone pays their own way and everyone is paid for the value they add to the church. The main vehicle by which this system is generated is the free market. The Apriorian community does not use credit-based currencies. The free market uses equity as a unit of account. Every time a person adds value to the church, as the people of God, he creates equity. This is given a value in terms of hours worked. This is set as a living wage. Those who work to build up the church is paid a specific rate per hour, for example 22 units of equity per hour worked. This unit of account is based on the value added to assets each hour by labor. This value added is issued as preferred shares. This serves as the unit of account and is contracted to prayers, when used as a medium of exchange.